SPACs is an acronym for Special Purchase Acquisition Company, and they've really gained in popularity in the last year when it comes to investing. In fact, in 2020, 237 SPACs raised close to $80 billion. So what exactly is a SPAC and how do you invest in them? Let's cover the basics of SPACs in this video. Hey guys, it's Justine with the College Investor, investing and personal finance for millennials. So you may have heard of SPACs in your research, or maybe this is a brand new investing concept for you. So what exactly is it? So SPACs, the Special Purchase Acquisition Company, is basically a way of pooling investor funds together and having those investors and their finances look for opportunities to either invest in a company, acquire a company, create a merger, and hopefully make some money out of the deal. Now, a SPAC in of itself, when the investors pool their funds together, they actually don't have a solid business plan. Rather, they've committed to looking for a business opportunity together to invest in. SPACs are often referred to as shell companies or blank check companies because they really are looking for opportunities to acquire or merge with an existing company, and then they'll take private companies, invest in them, and then do an IPO. IPO is an initial public offering in which they turn that private company into one that's publicly traded on the stock market, so investors like you and me can invest into these companies or these SPACs. So there's a few other mechanics on how SPACs work, and I want to keep this high level, but I think it's important to know a couple of things. First, SPACs price their units at $10 each, and shares are traded on a public stock exchange. Now, as part of that IPO process that I mentioned, when a SPAC acquires a company and then it becomes publicly traded, this process is known as de-SPACing. Also, when it comes to SPACs, there are deadlines in place. So a SPAC can't just sit on investor funds forever. There's deadlines put into place to make things happen. Oftentimes, that means between 18 to 24 months, investors are prompted and on this time frame to look for these opportunities. If that deadline is missed or passed and they still haven't found anything, then their initial investment gets returned to them. Okay, so there's a lot of SPACs out there, but I wanted to give you a few examples that you probably have heard of. The first one is DraftKings. Their ticker symbol is DKNG. And what I did when I was researching SPACs for myself is I went onto Yahoo Finance just to kind of see what these SPACs were all about. Now, DraftKings is the big digital sports, entertainment, gaming, gambling. You've probably seen the commercials when football season is around, NFL. DraftKings is technically a SPAC. So I looked inside of their financials, and then you can also see holders. So if you click on holders, you can see top institutional holders. And I thought this was really interesting because I scrolled down here at the bottom and saw top mutual fund holders included Vanguard, the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund, which makes sense because that particular fund holds all US-based companies, and DraftKings is based out of Boston. So I think whenever you're looking up these different examples of SPACs, it's a good idea to kind of go through their entire profile. The next example is Nikola Corporation. Nikola is a maker of electric vehicle solutions. They're basically Tesla, and they are based out of Phoenix, and I looked them up as well. They are currently trading at $16.82. And you can see over in the holders section that, again, a lot of these big institutional holders you've probably heard of have a stake in this SPAC, and then all of these different types of mutual fund holders, Fidelity, Vanguard, they're all in there. The next one is Virgin Galactic Holdings. The ticker symbol is SPCE, and they're currently trading at $34 per share. This is a Richard Branson company. They're an aerospace company, and they also do human space flight testing, which is really cool. And you can see again over in the holders section who exactly has a stake in this. Goldman Sachs, Vanguard is in here as well, Morgan Stanley, and then you can see all the different types of index and mutual funds that have part ownership of this particular SPAC. And so these are kind of the well-known ones so that you can get an idea of how these companies kind of came about, that there were initially investors that took these on as SPACs and then went public, which is really kind of cool when you think about it. So how do you invest in a SPAC? Obviously, if they're publicly traded, you can go onto most investing platforms and then just buy a share outright. However, if you want to diversify your portfolio and maybe just take on a small portion, you could just buy into an index fund or a mutual fund, which already holds a lot of these SPACs. But a couple of things to note if you go the individual shares route. You'll want to take a look at the prospectus. Look at their financials. You'll also want to take a look at their management team. Is the management team well known? Have they had successful ventures in the past? Also, it's important to look at their current press and other financial news. Can you determine whether or not that company is kind of in an upward trajectory in which you can really get in and ride that wave? Or are you kind of seeing some bad press that could reflect the performance on the stock market? So I also wanted to show you a quick status of SPAC IPOs between 2015 and 2019 that's really kind of interesting. So just over 50% made acquisitions during that time period, and 29% were still searching for a deal. 15% had deals pending, and then just under 5% completely dissolved and returned their investor funds. So like anything, when you are investing, there comes a level of risk. Now, it could be a really conservative risk or a really aggressive risk that you take on. And so that's why it's so important when you are investing to research these things, especially with individual stocks and shares of companies like SPACs up front, to know what you're getting yourself into. So if you have questions on that, or you're like, kind of interested in SPACs, kind of not, let me tell you, we have so many free tools and resources to help you not only just figure out and navigate your current investing strategy, but also how to get started with investing. You can check out all of those resources at thecollegeinvestor.com.